Right. Good evening, everybody. It's Monday, August 18th, 2025, and this is a regular meeting of Moscow City Council. Drew.
If you could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance if you're able.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Drew. Thank you, everybody out there. First up is the consent agenda, and this is composed of items that are generally housekeeping, non-controversial, and have been previously vetted by either the Administrative or Public Works and Finance Committee. Any item in the consent agenda can be removed for separate consideration by any member of the council.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Okay. Haley,
Aye.
Drew,
Aye.
Julia,
Aye.
Sandra?
Aye.
Okay, that's gone. Next up is public comment. And for the next 15 minutes in 3-minute increments, we invite members of the public to come to the podium, state your name, place of residence, and tell us what's on your mind, as long as it's not on tonight's agenda, as long as it's not coming up before Planning and Zoning Commission, and is not coming up before the Board of Adjustment. So, anyone would like to avail themselves, please come on down. Good evening.
Hey, good evening. My name is Cody Barr. I live here in Moscow. So I own and operate the Refuge Cigar Lounge here in Moscow. We opened about 5 months ago, and we've had the pleasure of serving Moscow and the surrounding communities with a real enjoyable, comfortable place to smoke indoors, and curating a robust selection of premium cigars, as well as giving them our customers a unique place in the region to connect with other people and enjoy great conversations and camaraderie. Tonight, I'd like to talk to you about a local ordinance that's impacting our business a little bit. It's Title 10, Chapter 1, Section 23, which is titled Prohibit Smoking in Bars. The stated purpose of this ordinance is to protect employees and patrons of a bar or private club from unwanted secondhand smoke. And in most cases, that makes perfect sense. No one should be forced to breathe smoke in an environment where smoking isn't expected. But our business is a little different. Smoking indoors is the primary activity at the Refuge. Our patrons come because they want to enjoy a cigar in a comfortable indoor setting. They know that smoke will be present, they expect it, and so do our employees who agree to work in that environment. The way the current ordinance works is it treats us the same as a typical bar, even though our circumstances are fundamentally different. Instead of protecting guests from unwanted smoke, which is the aim of the ordinance, it just prevents them from enjoying a good cigar with a fine whiskey, which is a natural and time-honored pairing. In our case, no patron or employee's health is being protected. The ordinance just, its only impact is to diminish the experience of our guests who nearly universally expect alcohol service. We have new people in the lounge every day, a lot of people traveling, and they're used to smoking a cigar and having a whiskey in all other cigar lounges, even here in Idaho. And so what I often hear from them is something like, oh, it'll be great when you guys finally get your liquor license. And I have to explain to them why it is that we haven't pursued alcohol service in our lounge. What I'd like for you to consider, and Councilwoman Lewis and I recently met and sort of workshopped together, is a highly specific, what I think reasonable amendment to the ordinance that would simply allow alcohol service in businesses where smoking is the central purpose. It would preserve the spirit of the ordinance, protecting the public from involuntary exposure to secondhand smoke, while also allowing patrons to simultaneously enjoy cigars and alcohol in a public indoor setting. Just as a side note, this is my first brick and mortar business, and it's been a passion project of ours for some time at the Refuge. And I want to say, I know that working on the city council is can be a real thankless job, having to deal mostly with complaints. But I just want to point out that in opening the business, it's been a real pleasure engaging with the city whenever we have, from city council members to the city attorney and clerk. and folks at the Community Development Office who've been all very friendly, extremely easy to work with, and sympathetic to us on this particular issue. Appreciate your time and your commitment to making our city a place where businesses can thrive and citizens can enjoy the many unique experiences our amazing little town has to offer. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for the input on that. Certainly getting it before city council's a good approach.
Yeah.
One question is, have you considered how you're going to get a liquor license in this town?
We just get on the list, but we haven't applied because we know that we would be stopped at the city level for the permit. So
True. Could be a long wait even at that.
we're fine to wait, but we could get alcohol right away. So,
Okay, great. Glad you thought of that.
thank you. I have a handout for you guys if that's
Sure.
okay, just summarizing the
Yeah,
issue with a
just,
copy of the ordinance.
To Lori.
And we'll pass one down to Lori. Thanks, Cody.
And we'll get one to you. Okay, anybody else? Okay, hearing none, on to the next item, which is a Citizens Commission report for the Sustainable Environment Commission, starring Kelly. And where are you? Steve McGeehan. Good. All yours.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It is my privilege tonight, in lieu of Kyle, to introduce Steve McGeehan, the Chair of the Sustainable Environment Commission, and for him to give his annual report.
Well done.
Well, I will try to be as brief as Kelly, but I don't think I can match that. So good evening, council members and Mayor Becky. It's my pleasure to come before the council tonight and provide an update. And Kelly, I need some help.
Yes, we've all gone dark.
Yeah, we did not go to wherever that place is.
Where that? Oh, it's lovely.
Just hit the right arrow to advance. There it goes. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you for the IT assistance. So this is an update the commission does every year, and I'd like to start off with just the brief mission statement. It's a little bit wordy, but really the intent of this commission is to solicit advice and information about sound environmental management practices that promote the health and safety for our citizens. That's our charge. And how do we do this? First off, we meet, of course. We meet the third Tuesday of each month right here in City Hall at 6 p.m. We establish an agenda. The agenda topics come in a variety of forms. They're suggested by the SEC members themselves or responses to citizen questions, concerns, sometimes complaints, that sort of a thing. We also have some monthly reports, standing committees, and things like that. Kelly represents the sustainable programs here in the city. We have a new member, Ash Werner, who I've not met, but I will tomorrow night. She's the Moscow High School representative, so we're really excited to have someone from Moscow High School on there again. Periodically, they've come and gone, of course, as students tend to do, but having that input from the younger set is really, really valuable, so we're excited to have her on there. We also have a standing committee, COG, Climate Action Working Group, that I know has come before the council a couple of times before. We also strive to collaborate with other commissions. There's a lot of brain power, a lot of interest, a lot of volunteerism in Moscow. You all know the other commissions that are involved, and when the topic presents itself that we can interact with the tree commission or transportation or something, we always try to do that. And then we have a slew of guest speakers, because on the Palouse, there's all kinds of interesting topics and interesting people that can share knowledge. So what I'd like to do with the next couple of slides is just give you an idea of some of the topics we've discussed over the last 12 months or so. I call them activities and accomplishments. In many cases, they are accomplishments of other people. We just provide input, review, and suggestions, if you will. One of which, of course, is water conservation. If you've been around the Palouse long enough, you know that water quantity, water quality are major issues. The City of Moscow has a water conservation plan. The last iteration was in 2015, 2016 by Nicole Baker. She's departed from the city now, but Kelly has taken the charge. Key ingredients or key elements from the 2015 plan included the devices program. That would be things like your shower heads, low flow nozzles for irrigation, that sort of a thing. The toilet and Wisescape rebate programs, extremely successful. So certainly those things were kept in the plan. And what Kelly did was update and add some elements, one of which would be irrigation audits. As the summers get longer, hotter, drier, irrigation audits are important. You want the water going on the plants, not on the pavement, not leaking, that sort of a thing. And so these audits are a great tool. New construction recommendations as Moscow grows and new housing and commercial projects go on. There are some construction ingredient recommendations I won't go into details on, but they are in the plan. Device program updates, same thing, shower heads, et cetera, but technology continues to advance, and these updates are in the new plan. Increased rebates for Wisescape, and then a site-specific commercial rebate program. I know Kelly has presented the new plan, and from what I understand, it's working its way through the system. Is that a good way to explain it? Okay. And again, Sustainable Environment Commission really listens to what Kelly has to say about this and just says, keep going. We love it. So we applaud the efforts and we applaud the consideration that the council and City of Moscow has with regard to water conservation. Waste. We've had Tim Davis come into the commission before and talk about solid waste management, another huge issue on the Palouse. A key topic that we were interested in was the specifics of electronic waste. As we become more electrified in our day-to-day life, we have things like laptops, cell phones. I don't know if any of you have an iPod sitting in your drawer somewhere, but sooner or later, those things have to get tossed. And what we are interested in as a commission, what happens to that stuff? There's a tendency to do the out of sight, out of mind thing. We want to know, is it going to the right place? Is it being recycled, or is it just being buried somewhere? So we invited Josh Lunt, many of you probably know him from Inland North Waste, to come in and talk about how e-waste is handled in the city. E-waste in general is sent to Recycle Boise, which is an accredited certified facility that takes apart whatever they, again, mostly laptops, computers, iPods, that kind of a thing, cell phones. If it's anything with personal information, Josh wanted to make sure you knew it's scrubbed ahead of time. So all that stuff that's on there gets taken off of there if you don't do it yourself ahead of time. But it is taken apart. The parts that can be recycled as far as the precious metals and all that are dealt with by Recycle Boise. Other things like TV monitors, CRT monitors, et cetera, are sent to a recycling facility in Oregon. Batteries are sent to the Lewiston facility, and I believe these are the lithium-ion batteries, not the alkaline batteries. I think, unfortunately, the alkalines are in the landfill, is what happens to those guys. And then lastly, small appliances, things like refrigerators, microwaves, et cetera, pretty much go to the landfill, and then they're crushed up and salvaged for scrap metal. But bottom line, Josh and Inland North Waste and the City of Moscow are doing a great job on handling that. And again, for us, it's a treasure. We just take care of it or take it to the recycling center and someone does the right thing with it. So we are really pleased to see a little bit more detail on how that is handled. Pesticides comes up all the time and at our particular commission. And we are fortunate to have David Schott from the city parks that comes in every year. One of the first things he does is talks about what pesticides, herbicides, et cetera, are used in the city. There's a list that he runs by the commission every year. We are certainly no experts on this sort of thing, but we talk about it, talk about the impacts on the environment, on pollinators and all that. And one of the key things that David stresses to us is this concept of reduced use. And as you might expect as a council member, and what David runs into is you have a wide spectrum of views on pesticides. Ban all pesticides, go organic, to I don't want a dandelion on the soccer field. You get everything in between. And so David has to, and the Parks Department has to deal with that sort of a thing. This idea of reduced use is to have that list available when needed, but they don't just go out and blanket spray anything. They time it with regard to pollinators and all that kind of thing. So they're doing a great job. They also use integrated pest management, which I won't go into the details on. That would take the entire time here, but it's a toolbox. Wise planting, weed control, mowing, watering, all that kind of thing helps to use natural processes to control pests using herbicides, pesticides when necessary. Managing one pesticide-free park per year. That's been a request from citizens. They want to know, is there a place I can go that hasn't been sprayed this year? It rotates year to year. One thing David's learned, that if you go too many years pesticide-free, the inevitable happens, weeds crop up. And so by rotating it, one crop, one park per year seems to be a good way to handle that. It's signed, and if people really want to go somewhere that hasn't been sprayed, they have that opportunity. One last thing I want to shout out is the effort to develop an edible forest, Harvest Park, south of town, right by the police station, and it is absolutely wonderful. Very long-term project. I know, Council, you've dealt with it and have supported this in the past, so please continue to do so. It's going to be a real gem once it's put in place. Energy, just like water, energy is something, if you're talking about sustainability, you can't get away from energy. And we are fortunate to have Paul Kimmel from Avista come at least once a year to our commission and talk about all things energy. A couple of things of note that he presented at our last commission meeting happened to do with Avista goals, one of which was 100% carbon neutral electricity capacity or supply by 2028. So that is certainly coming up. And a related goal is to go 100% clean energy, or clean electricity, I should say, by 2045. So we're really pleased to see, and again, there's a lot of details that I won't share with you tonight, but Avista is really on board with this idea of trying to be sustainable. There's a challenge. As we go more electrical, as we electrify our houses, as we electrify vehicles, as we put in data centers, the demand for electricity goes up. Avista is very aware of that, and what we're seeing in a lot of places, demand is outstripping capacity. And so Avista certainly has a plan to deal with that. It's not a new concept for them. And Paul was polite enough to share some of the ideas with that. And lastly, wildfires. There's a lot of issues with overground or overhead power lines, and Avista is doing a great job on really improving resiliency of the grid with regard to wildfires, putting up cameras, sensors, and things like that. So we're really fortunate to have someone like Paul and Avista that's on board with sustainability with regard to energy. Mayor's Earth Day Awards. This is something that the commission gets involved with every year. And the idea here is to recognize Moscow residents and organizations for activities that are conducive to environmental sustainability. I'm not going to go through all the people on here. You can read it, but this is something that Mayor Betke has promoted and wishes to continue. In fact, when I email the mayor every year and say, "Are you up for doing this?" I'll paraphrase, "Heck yeah." And so thank you for that. It is really important to recognize the individuals and organizations that contribute to sustainability in this town. There's some wonderful people out there. This has been an annual award every year, and I thank you, the mayor, for continuing to pursue this. A couple of upcoming events that you should be aware of. One is an electric transportation fair. Electrification is something that's happening, and it's really impacting transportation. We all are familiar with electric vehicles, not only private, but the city has a fleet of electric vehicles. People have questions about it. And in this case, you can learn all about it at PCEI on September 21st. This is co-sponsored by Citizens Climate Lobby of the Palouse, as well as PCEI. And I've seen electric cars and trucks. I've never seen an electric motorcycle, so I'm going to go check that out. And every time I chug up the 3rd Street Hill on my bike, I think about switching to an e-bike. I haven't done it yet, but the technology is getting better and better. And as I get older, I'm certain that is in my future. So do keep it in mind. It's from noon to 3. And and the scooters, of course, we've all seen those around town. And I'm guessing as the students come back, we're going to see a lot more of them here in the next couple of weeks. Another one that I'm really excited about, and it's coming up next spring, so it's still in the planning stages, but an energy efficiency and electrification fair. This is again being planned and organized by the Citizens Climate Lobby of the Palouse and co-sponsored by Avista. And it's an expo. It's a way to bring together a whole bunch of people with expertise. The advice from the Avista Energy Efficiency Team, contractors that deal with building, deal with insulation, HVAC, et cetera, will be there, as well as information on rebates and tax credits as they exist now and hopefully will exist in the near future. We'll find out about that. But a wonderful one-stop shopping opportunity for people will be at the Latah County Fairgrounds, and there's much more to come on it, but I want to get this on everybody's radar coming up. Other things that are planned for this will be presentations and panel discussions on energy efficiency, renewables, and home electrification. As a side note, my wife and I just purchased a heat pump system. I wish this had been there. I spent weeks and months researching all this stuff, calling people up, trying to find how these systems work, how the rebates work and all that. So having an expo like this is invaluable. And I can tell you, I don't have a slide on it. We've tabled at the Art Walk. We've tabled at the Farmers Market a couple times. When we talk about energy efficiency, conservation, rebates, we get people's attention. It has to do with the economics as well as doing the right thing. And the citizens are really interested in this topic. So I'm really excited to see this fair happen next spring. I would be remiss if I didn't recognize the other members that are on the commission. I won't name all the names, but those in black are the current members of the Sustainable Environment Commission. Bryce isn't here tonight, but I'm sure he's preparing for tomorrow night's SEC meeting. I'm guessing that's what's going on.
Yes, he is. He missed his flight.
He's really sad to not be here.
Okay. He's our current council liaison, and Julia was our previous liaison. It's invaluable. As we're discussing things, the conversations and discussions go rambling, and council liaisons are there, as well as city staff, Kyle and Kelly, to rein us back in and keep us grounded. So we appreciate that. And I want to thank again Kelly, Kyle, and Jennifer Rossini for the administrative support and the city support we get as we do our thing as a commission. And I want to thank the council. I don't know how common it is in communities, but to have citizens commissions that are recognized and supported by city council is a unique experience. I've been around a bunch of college towns in my career. I've never seen anything like this before. And so I know there's a bunch of them out there. I want to thank you for recognizing that. And with that, I'll close and see if there are any questions or comments.
I have a question.
Please.
This is a really tough one. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm really grateful that you keep doing this year after year. You're really engaged and you give a nice and succinct update on what's going on. How many years have you been chair of this?
Long enough that I don't remember.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Easily 10. Kelly, you have any idea?
At least 10.
At least 10.
Great.
Scott Fidel, if you remember him, I replaced
Oh,
him.
yeah.
So
Okay.
if you know when he left town.
I think
after
it's a little
stepped
more
in,
than 10.
it probably
Anyway,
is.
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, Sandra. Anything else?
I said one. I was curious about the e-waste thing. Is it profitable for Inland North Waste to tackle this and partner, or is it just more a benefit of like diversion from having it sit in a landfill when there's something that could be done with it?
It's a great question, and that applies to almost all recycling.
Right.
I can't answer you specifically. I'm guessing they're doing it. It must at least balance the books and be, kind of a net zero thing. But I don't know for sure.
I'm also sure it depends.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's not
it'd
an
be a
easy
good
question.
question.
to
I
answer.
certainly I can follow up.
I know, Josh. I
Josh.
feel like I have some to drop off, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I would love to make sure that it actually makes dollars and cents.
There's no doubt about it. Economics and balancing budgets is crucial to having a
Yeah.
robust recycling program. And so a good question. And yeah, I'm curious as well. So we can both bug them.
I love it.
Anything else?
And if you remember, what's the chosen pesticide-free park this year and what's next year?
This year, it's the Orchard Park. It got another name besides Orchard, but I can't remember
Rotary.
Yeah, the Water Tower Park.
Rotary.
Yeah,
Jim
that's the
Lyle.
one. And I don't know what it is for next year. That David is keeping that under wraps.
Oh.
Or at least he hasn't told me about it.
Good to know. That's a big park.
Julia, do you have a question?
Can I so Steve, today, the odometer on my e-bike just rolled over 900 miles. So I just want to say, they're a lot of fun and very useful, especially if you have to carry your groceries or something. So,
Well, I'm glad
you're
reminded
welcome
me.
to borrow anytime. Check it out.
I will. I think once I do it, I've been told this. As soon as you ride one, you're going to want one. So
You're like, oh,
that's
this
probably
is
the
nice.
case for me.
That's
I'm
right.
getting slower going up the hill. For sure. Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate the attention.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it. Keep up the good work. Okay, next up is the East Cities Park Stage Project update with Cody Riddle.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, members of council. I'm excited to be before you with probably a little bit overdue update on where we're at with the East City Park Stage project. So I'll walk through some of the background outreach we did. Ned's here from Design West to walk through the design and cost estimate as it sits today, and then we'll be available to answer any questions you might have. So just in terms of background, as a reminder, since it's been a while, this project or the efforts towards it date back at least to 2010. There was significant outreach that occurred then, both around a new stage and a new restroom building. The restroom building that we see out there today was constructed about 2013. And then as a reminder, the vision was always to attach a new stage at some point to that restroom building. Fast forward to last spring, and through routine maintenance, it was discovered that cover had to come off that stage right away. So it was removed. The platform of the stage was patched back together, and we've used it in that fashion since. But at that time, we did enlist the design services from Ned's team with the idea that we'd complete a 30% cost estimate and concept design. It was also at that time that we engaged a group of key stakeholders or users of the stage that host some of the bigger annual events, and we started immediately on that new design. We provided council with an update on the project on June 3rd of 2024, but it was clear at that time that we needed to tell our story a little bit more and go back and confirm support for that new location or the location attached to that restroom. So we did spend a fair amount of time doing so. And proceeded in that direction. You've seen this information here before, so I don't want to dwell on it. But in short, there was certainly justification as we worked through that for that location of the stage attached to the restroom. I do also want to remind council that it was at that time that we confirmed that our stakeholder group was unanimously in support of that new location. So with that, we proceeded to refine that design a little bit further and provided you an update back on December 16th of 2024. The concept you see here on the big screen or your little screens in front of you are what was presented then. We walked away from that meeting with general support for the design, but were directed to proceed with that concept, however, with an emphasis on additional public engagement. So that's just what we did. You might be able to read it on the screen here, but we spent a significant amount of time over the spring and early summer doing just that. You can see what that engagement looked like. In addition to a handful of individual meetings, we did have a presence. We had an open house that was advertised right here in City Hall. We attended both the Ren Fair and Market. And I would say Ren Fair was a pretty powerful exercise in that people had a lot of questions, and we were sitting right there to where you could turn around and see, hey, you're effectively standing beside the stage, and that's where an audience would be. So it was really effective to tell our story. During that time, I talked to hundreds of people. Didn't keep a tally, but I think you can count on one hand easily the people that were maybe opposed to the project outright. There was certainly overwhelming support for the effort, and I think that showed in the conversations we have. In terms of what we heard, again, overall support for the project. There was definitely support to include a public art component in the project, whether that be integrated into the stage or somewhere else around the stage in the park. People were quite fond of wood highlights in the stage, not wood to the extent of the old stage, but incorporating some wood into the stage. Inclusion of a degree of, I think it's fair to say, vibrant colors in the stage. Careful balance of paving, and this one still remains, careful balance of paving and landscape areas, that we don't provide too much paving, but we do want to ensure that the new stage is accessible. Certainly preservation of existing trees. And then one thing we heard fairly often was a desire, again, based on that design that was presented then, was to better integrate storage and lighting rooms. There was a concern with the way those structures were attached to the building or proposed to be attached, that maybe adequate thought wasn't given to the way they integrated with the overall stage. So with that, I would like to hand things over to Ned, who can walk through where we are today with the current design. Larger copies were included in your packet along with some of the correspondence we received. So
Thank you for having us here. As Cody mentioned, we did take the design that you had last seen in December, and through the public input process, we have evolved the design to address many of the concerns that were brought to light with that. So to highlight those with what you see on the screen currently, the storage room on the upper part of the screen has grown to be something that would be workable as a changing room for small acts. So it grew. The space on the southern or the lower part of the screen, we added a stair to allow direct access up from the audience level without having to go up the ramp and around the back. And then the front of the stage was provided with a seat step so that for hanging out space and the ability for performers to either step down or step back up onto the stage is possible as long as you can make a double height step to be able to get up on the stage. Brief facts about the project. The overall construction addition to the existing restroom building is around 1,100 square feet. The stage itself is approximately the same depth as the current stage. It is wider by about 4 feet. And so that works out to be about a 12% growth in stage size under the basic concept or the basic scope of the project. Didn't take the tutorial. So these images give you an idea what it would look like in position or in situation of off the back of the existing restroom. And so to address some of the comments that came up through the public process, the existing building or the main building shell will really be dictated by the materials and colors and construction roof slope of the existing restroom. So this will grow out of the existing restroom and be very much something that looks like it always was a part of the restroom if you weren't here for the past, I guess, 15 years and realize it took us that long to get the stage on there. The opportunity for color and art is something I'm excited about, and I think that was great public input that we received from the city. Is something that we want to work hard to try to integrate those into sheltered, protected locations. And so the building itself will be set up to be as low maintenance and as in the same context as the restroom. And then our opportunities to bring out color and some of those other things will really be more focused kind of on the inside of the band shell as we see this design evolving as we move forward. We have conducted or completed a detailed cost estimate, and as nearly as our crystal ball can tell us with what's going on with the economy, right now the basic project as envisioned in those two previous slides is hovering just a little bit below $800,000 as our cost estimate. With that in mind, some of the other input that we received kind of related to some of the questions about roof and things like that were what happens if we decide to dream a little bigger or think a little larger about what this project might be. And so in this slide, you can see to the left, this is pretty much an image you just saw, which shows the basic version of the stage and roof. And then to the right is what would happen if we grew the roof, got a little bit extra covered space. And then we're continuing to look at the possibility of growing the stage as well. And so these two images show a couple different ways that we could grow the stage out to really kind of encompass those two ancillary spaces to either side of the stage. And so this actually gets us to a stage that is about 50% larger than what you have currently. The depth doesn't change, but the width does. And the width is one of the more popular things for people to have that have larger ensembles. And if you're trying to put the middle school band up there or something like that, the width is actually what people are looking for. And so this opportunity for us to consider a larger project and look at a stage platform that would actually get a little bit bigger, that is something that we are considering. Background on our input from the stakeholders. Rendezvous in the Park is kind of the largest show that we have that we talk about with the stakeholders. And they were accepting and actually fairly positive about the small size. They would be even happier about the large size. And so the design of the stage is set around the possibility that Rendezvous may choose to move their main event or their main stage to this location. That's not necessarily decided at this point. It is available for their children's rendezvous or things like that to be able to have additional stages in the park during that event. So these are just a few more images. This is the simple, just squared version of expanding the roof and bringing the steps all the way around. So expanding the stage size to be about 50% larger than what you have currently.
Okay, so what's next? We're hoping to have your support this evening. And with that, we'd like to issue a request for qualifications for design services to pursue grant funding, and then begin to prepare construction drawings. Ultimately, those steps would likely occur this fall into winter, with the idea that we could be under construction as early as spring, if not summer of next year. I guess before we wrap up, want to again, we're seeking your approval this evening to proceed in that fashion. I want to acknowledge not just the stakeholders we worked with, but Joanne's here this evening, and she's kind of kept me and others in line on this project. They've provided a lot of very helpful feedback, especially as it relates to just how the park was historically used, how it can be used moving forward. And I think her input and others specifically around the ratio of open space and paving and things like that are certainly details we plan to work through as we finalize construction drawings. So I did want to acknowledge that, because I don't think her or even David have missed one of the meetings or sessions we've had on that. And with that, we're happy to answer any questions you have.
Yeah. So I have a couple of questions. One, I think you went through the history of the stage like quite nicely. How we received feedback initially when this was introduced to council, how we need to engage the public, and I think this is a good example of how that request was brought up to council, and then how staff responded to that. And so I think you showed going to the different events. And then also the different meeting events that you hosted with individuals one-on-one. In my mind, I don't know what else we can do to listen to people. I don't know whether people like the direction of it. That's a different conversation. But people have been heard, and there have been ample opportunities for the public to weigh in at several different events. And I think that's really important to know, that we are always trying to listen to community members' feedback on this. And so, one, just thank you. Two, I just had a question, and maybe it's better directed to Mr. Warnick, if that's okay, Ned. If we could go back to a floor plan just real fast, if that's possible. I'm just more curious than anything. It's not a critique. So on the floor plan, where if we start on where we have the stair accessing the stage from the exterior side, if we were to take an immediate right, that on both sides, it's symmetrical. That 45-degree line is, I think one's a door. Is the other one just for symmetry?
They're both panels that can be adjusted. So they allow access off the backstage. And so it is symmetry. If you do have an act that requires someone to enter from the lower side, you better have an agile actor or performer, because you are taking a big step up off the ramp to get there. So you've got about a 20 to 22 inch step from the ramp to come in that way. It is for symmetry and the ability to potentially have an image like that. The other alternative for people that are staging performances there is there will be the ability to hang backdrops at some point off of that backstage wall. And so we're trying to provide a little bit of flexibility for somebody who doesn't show up with a scene package or something like that. And so those are movable. In most cases, they will be locked closed to be able to protect that back area from misbehavior that David would have to clean up after if I don't manage to get that secure for him.
No, I totally understand. I just wanted to, I thought it was something along those lines. I just wanted to be sure. Thank you.
Julia.
I also, want to reiterate what Drew said. I appreciate the engagement that the city has worked on for the project. I know it's been a lot of work, and I know that it's important to this council to have a lot of stakeholders at least have a say in something so important. And I know that that doesn't always mean you get your way, though. But at least at least we heard a lot of people. But I do have a question about when you talked about we could expand it this way. We could do the curved roof. Based on what? So if we say, okay, go move forward with this today, are we saying go forward with the smaller stage, and maybe if we find some money, we'll add to it later, or would it be bigger from the beginning? Sorry, does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's a fair question. That was really staff's feedback when we saw, the big change from when you saw this in December until now was we switched to a single shed roof instead of the opposing, I guess, roof lines. So the single shed roof we thought really better integrated the stage with the restroom building. The idea of it being instead of the jog in the roof, the single roof plane itself with the shed, even furthered that idea. I think the larger stage, certainly our preference, I think from a staff perspective, would be to pursue that larger stage. It'll accommodate larger events, and perhaps if it works out, even Rendezvous could use that larger stage. It could be, as we get into the details, that we look at that as an alternate or something when we get into the bidding process. But we would love to have your support to pursue that larger stage. The cost estimate was just under 800,000. We've budgeted 800. I think 825,000 is in the fiscal year 26 budget.
If I may, 885,000 is budgeted.
885. Sorry.
And so that
So we have some cushion there.
85 is with the concept that we may be able to do the larger stage.
That would be our hope. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I get it now. I just was confused about what we were voting on, and I particularly like the bigger roof. So I think that makes sense.
If you're running so the 885 is total project budget. So that would include design costs as well as construction. So we've got construction here at about 800,000 with the smaller footprint. We don't know what the design is going to cost yet because we have not. We do expect that to be somewhere slightly over 50,000 in cost, but we also have not taken a look at what grants might be available. We did feel that I think at least the roof structure, which would have probably a relatively small cost increase, would be something we want to pursue. The stage increase would be something I think would be dependent upon funding.
Oh, I heard the design people were just going to donate their design work.
Never.
All right, that's all I have. Thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I've got a handful, surprising nobody. I still have significant concern about the load in and load out capability. Let me just go down the list for my concerns. I should clarify by saying I've spent a lot of time in the park in the past year, and I'm grateful for the staff's engagement. I have come on board with I am more on board with the new stage location, but based on what I'm seeing tonight, I'm still really concerned about load in, load out, cohesiveness. Someone had suggested paving over the horseshoe pits, and I would be very against that as an avid horseshoer myself. But there was some concern. I still have concern over load and load out location, and I have concerns about the dark corners of the stage, both in terms of functionality and safety. I'd be curious of what MPD's input has been. Even as somebody who frequently walks through the park, and I used to sleep on the stage for Rendezvous in the park because we wanted to make sure that no one would come and mess with our equipment, and you'd still have kids who would walk through the park, and shenanigans were afoot. And so we've always had great support and honesty from our public safety folks, but I'd want to know what their perspective is. I'm pretty concerned about the dark alcoves on that. My questions I have, so there's a piece in the quote for temporary fencing, and I just wanted to clarify because we've been talking a lot about fencing in the past few months. Is that temporary fencing in that quote, that's talking about actually fencing and perimeter for the construction phase. Is that right? Okay. And then I wanted to ask the gypsum boards. I can't remember if that's the same or different kind than the materials we used at the HERC that we've had water like sealant problems. Is that glue lam versus gypsum? Am I mixing up my materials? Okay, gypsum's just like the chipboard stuff that you put down as like subflooring and things like that.
It's not, gypsum is sheetrock.
Oh, duh. Okay, great. Not the wood thing.
Yeah, wood, I mean, there has been discussion about wood, and it really actually revolves around trying to respect the existing stage and trying to find creative ways that we might be able to repurpose that. We've been working with David on that as to what's a appropriate way to incorporate that without turning it into a maintenance headache in the future. In terms of I think the underlying question you're asking there is, we don't want to buy ourselves a maintenance problem that's similar to what's happened with some of your other facilities. And I think the existing restrooms have actually been fairly low maintenance, durable. They've weathered quite well. And so it's going to be a very similar palette of materials for that.
Okay, that helps. And then there were some questions in our packet from public comments about like overbuilding for power. Is that beyond kind of what we would be truly in terms of power and what we would have at the stage for big light setups or sound setups?
I think that's a great question. The design, the estimate does envision that there will be adequate power for big acts.
Great.
But this is a bring your own equipment setup.
Right.
So the city is not going to buy lights. The city is not going to buy a sound system. This is going to be, we provide infrastructure and pathways and the ability for somebody to set their own equipment, but we're not going to be buying equipment under that budget.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so I guess I think while I am on board with the work to be done to replace a stage, and I can be on board with the new location, I think this is pardon the candidness, I think this is a really soulless design. I really don't love it. And so the curveball I'm throwing for everybody, I'm curious what my fellow council members think, for comparison's sake and or just in terms of some of the conversations we've had, for opportunities for the city to be creative in supporting and funding our ventures, like with things with the arts. The city of Pullman owns a rental stage that at this time is what Rendezvous in the Park has been using. I'm pretty sure the Nez Perce tribe has also bought a trailer setup, and I don't know, I have no clue what the ballpark amount for those things are, but I'm really, really terrified of saying go on this structure and then having us build something that is not a reflection, is not agile, not easy to maintain, isn't safe, disrupts the entire park cohesion and paths. And so I guess I would be curious if, for comparison's sake, if we could understand what the cost to purchase a like trailer, it's kind of like an inflatable, it's like a pop-up tent sort of thing, but what we have learned from our peers, even in the local area, because part of me thinks if none of us are super stoked on this stage design, could we safely remove the old stage location and then potentially look at purchasing a trailer-like pop-up stage to try and get us through? Because I'm also terrified of the timeline for this construction, that it would disrupt all of our significant community events next summer. And if that would potentially turn into something that's if it's more of a maintenance nightmare for us to maintain a mobile stage like that, or if it could potentially be a source of revenue. So that's the curveball I'm throwing out here, because I'd be curious for the comparison, because I'm really, and I like, no offense to your team, Ned, or the work that your team has done. I think it's cinder block building that we are gonna, even if it ages well and we don't have repairs for, it doesn't have personality. So that's my 7 cents, Mr. Mayor.
Sandra.
Yep. Anyway, I have a question, and it might just me being a little turnaround in my head, first to admit that. But it looks like the bike path goes nowhere and the walking path just ends. And that doesn't seem right.
We would certainly, as we went through the kind of final construction drawings, there would need to be changes to the pathway system. I mean, we heard loud and clear that an opportunity to travel through the park and around probably the back of the restroom and on through without disrupting or having to walk through a crowd that was gathered to see the stage would be important. And we did some, I think you had correspondence in your packet where Joanne and I had some back and forth, and others where we discussed that. And roughly, you remove the old stage, build the new, reconfigure the pathways. It's going to be real close to a wash in terms of, open space gained from removing the old stage,
Okay.
and then certainly with that, Haley mentioned, turnaround space for load in, load
Mhm.
out, and things like that. So that's certainly, we didn't get to that, finalizing that in the 30% design effort.
I was hoping that was it, and I could have just been turned around. So
The image that's on the screen right now is essentially a sketch. And so it is dropped down without having the benefit. There is a site plan that does show that bike path that looks like it smacks right dab into there is adjusted a little to the right. And so the Dancers Plaza and all that are arranged. So there is a plan for that.
Okay.
I think in terms of one of the comments that Haley brought up, there is a plan that does not wipe out the horseshoe pits, that looks at ways to allow food trucks to potentially use that same drive-in so that you're standing on asphalt when you're buying your burrito and still be able to get somebody in a step van up to the stage.
that takes me to my second question, and I don't know which one's going to answer it, if that's okay, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
And again, I may be remembering this incorrectly, but don't we also have a handicap parking space right by the restroom? What happens to that? Do we have to move that somewhere?
It gets restriped as a part of the rearrangement of the hardscape, but it's still maintained.
In that same-ish spot?
And there's also the disabled accessible parking that's out by 3rd Street, right as soon as you turn in on that driveway,
Mhm.
there's 1 or 2 spaces
Mhm.
there. And so the disabled parking is kind of distributed around the site. The challenge of having that space during an event is who's the lucky person that actually pulls the card that gets to park in the center of the park.
Sure.
And so it turns into somewhat of a kind of a functional operational challenge to have it there. But day in, day out, that space would be available.
Great, thank you.
I guess just to respond to Councilmember Lewis's ideas, we have been working on this for over a year. I say we, but really it's been staff. So, and I appreciate the work you've been doing. I think that the design right now that we look at on our screen is, it's a sketch, right? And that I think one of the things that will help bring it to life is that we will incorporate some artistic elements and work with the arts department on looking for funding for murals and things like that will help bring the stage to life and be part of the community. Because yes, it's just a building right now, or a half a building, or whatever you call a stage. And so I think it's important to move forward on this. I don't think the city needs to be in the business of buying a stage on a trailer. I just don't think that solves anything. Because those are super generic, like talk about Solus, those are pretty boring. It's going to be disruptive at some point, no matter what year we build it, just because of our short construction season. So, I think we'll have to suck it up for a season and figure that out. And maybe that's at the point at which we borrow Pullman's mobile stage or something like that to help get us through that season. But other than that, I just don't think that's a good long-term solution.
Do you have anything?
I was just going to comment, the construction period can be managed. So we can wait till the last event, whether it's a rendezvous in July and say it's a fall construction into early winter with spring cleanup. I mean, it's not a huge project. And so I think it'd be easily achievable to get masonry and concrete and some of those weather dependent items done before we get into really deep freezing temperatures. So we can manage that construction period to try to avoid kind of that, April through July time period where most of those events are happening, and kind of work put this out to bid as a fall construction project. But I mean, obviously those are
That's good to
details
know.
we can look
Yeah.
as we get
Yeah.
into the design.
Mr. Mayor, I guess like I said, curveball, was curious what everyone was thinking. I guess my amended request would be if for some reason, if we move forward, if everyone's in favor of moving forward with an RFQ and the RFQ doesn't pan out like expected, like I'd love to have the comparison. I don't mean for it to be a 20-hour project. I would simply just hope for an easy conversation with our friends in Pullman to understand what they use it for. My other thought being, since it's a long ways off for us to do any of the downtown improvements for the downtown corridor, there had been some of the ideas brought forward about like having a stage functionality in Friendship Square for other concerts and things like that. So like, it's not just the project, the events that I don't want to say trademark because they're not trademarked, but cornerstone events of our community that happen at eCity Park who could potentially benefit from a trailer. I know it means storing it. I know it means maintaining it. I just, they're easily customizable. And if people are concerned about if we continue to hear concerns from the community about what the stage will look like, I was just trying to get creative. So, and I'm glad to hear that the construction timeline could be mitigated because I'm a little scared of the wrath of our community members who put on these great events in the eCity Park.
So we have a proposed action of accepting the report and providing feedback. I think feedback has been provided. So
Mr. Mayor, I move that we accept the report.
Second.
moved and seconded. Okay. So Haley,
Aye.
Julia,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
and Drew.
Aye.
Cool.
Thank you
Thank you.
for all your hard work.
Thank you, Ned. Thank you, Cody.
Thanks, Cody.
Next up is the street banner policy update. Bill Belknap. I'm sure everybody remembers exactly what we had to say about this 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. Just filling in this evening for Tyler, who's at a conference this week. So as the council recalls, the city has a street banner program where we advertise either community identity banners, whether the City of Moscow, University of Idaho, and also community events. That policy was last updated in 2013. As that program has expanded now, as we've looked at a few minor details related to that, staff identified the need to update the policy. That draft was prepared and then presented to the Public Works Finance Committee at the July 14th meeting. And then that moved on to the council at the council's August 4th meeting. During that last discussion at the last council meeting, the council was concerned about some of the community-sponsored event language that was in that policy. And so they council provided staff direction to modify the policy to restrict it only to a city and governmental event advertising and to eliminate the city-sponsored community events use of those spaces. So the draft before you, there's two copies in your packet. There's one that's in legislative format, so you can see the changes that were made to the last copy. Again, in section 1, it just strikes a reference to city-sponsored community event programs. In section 2, same change in section 2A, 2D, and then section F is no longer needed, so 2F was stricken. A couple other spots in 3A as well, sponsored was removed. In 3B, unless waived by the council, was removed. We had that conversation about waiver of fees, so that was removed from the policy there. In section 3D, 2 was deleted, which identified city-sponsored events. And that was really the last change. So relatively minor changes just to reflect the council's desires for the policy. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
We asked a lot of questions at the last meeting about that one.
There's been a lot of discussion both at committee and at council last meeting. So this is just making those final changes the council requested. So there's really not a lot to look at tonight.
I think we're getting empty for questions on this, which is a good thing. And I just appreciate everything that that staff has done. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the updated street banner policy and associated resolution.
Stop there.
Period.
Period.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
It always gets me.
It's not too bad. So given the lack of questions and other discussion, we'll go ahead with the vote. Sandra?
Aye.
Julia?
Aye.
Haley?
Aye.
And Drew?
Aye.
And there that is. And that takes us to the end of the regular agenda.
Thanks, Bill.
On to reports.
Ready for me?
I am.
All right. This past 2 weeks, I had Fair and Affordable Housing Commission. Fair and Affordable Housing Commission. Talk slower. And we talked about the Affordable Housing Authority that has been brought up repeatedly over the last year or so. And the commission is moving forward to drafting a letter to council about the authority and seeing if they can help get that off the ground. So that was the big momentum there at Fair and Affordable Housing. I think we've talked this through many times at the commission. So I know that it moves slowly, but it's good to make sure you talk through these things. The second thing I'll mention in the past 2 weeks is that I was able to host a fundraiser for Moscow High School Cross Country. And I will say that we raised $500 and we got 70 pairs of shoes to recycle. So those go out to a company called Got Sneakers, and they clean up, reuse, resell, and recycle all those shoes, and then they send the money back to the team. So we'll get probably another, I don't know, a few $100s. And we had so many shoes that we had to ask for a lot more bags. So we anticipate getting another couple hundred pairs of running shoes. So that was really fun. It was a great community event, and it was nice to see people come out and support the team. This week I have human rights. All right, that's it.
Drew.
Yeah, busy couple of weeks. Unfortunately, I had to miss the Farmers Market Commission, had another city meeting at that time. Folks are busy. We've kind of been in recess as Farmers Market's been in full swing. So we're picking back up with those meetings. For Moscow Urban Renewal Agency, we had our annual budget hearing where we approved the budget for 2026. And so for more details, you can go read those meeting minutes, but moving forward on hopefully a couple of projects in 2026 coming up. So looking forward to that. This summer, I'm averaging about 8 to 9 hours a week of people reaching out to me individually to talking about whatever people want to talk about in the community of Moscow. So that can mean a variety of things depending who I'm talking to. But 8 to 9 hours, that's a full working day. And so, but I'm happy to do it. And it's been really good conversations. Besides that, I've spent a lot of time at one of the best amenities in Moscow, the city pool. And so I haven't gotten sunburnt yet, so I haven't spent enough time there. So, but yeah, it's been great being there with seeing families. So.
Sandra.
Great. I had, let's see here, if I can read my own handwriting. I was asked to cover planning and zoning for Bryce, and that was great. It was good to be back and to see the great work that goes on between all the folks that work really hard up here to help with developing our town. And I know we'll have something coming up the pike pretty soon. We had a good public hearing. There was some distress about what might be going on, and I thought we had some good answers. I'm not going to spill the beans now because it's all coming up later. But I was reminded on how the important work that they do at planning and zoning, and I'm grateful for that. It's one of some commissions, they plan really fun events, they do really fun things, and it's a really good time. And then planning and zoning makes sure that our houses our new developments are built correctly and everything is zoned correctly. And it's hard work, and it can be really frustrating work. And those folks are hardcore, and I'm grateful for them. So I'm glad I had the chance to come back and do that. I also had fire on the day before, so it was Wednesday. And it was fun. I got to put on my readers because my memory it's late and my memory isn't working right. There were new volunteers there, which was fun. It was a full house this beginning of the school year, quite honestly. And we have, I believe, I know it's from Southern California. I think 2 new folks from Southern California. We have 1 from Oregon and 2 from Idaho, 1 from the northern part and 1 from the southern part. And it's exciting to have them. It's also fun. I can't remember which firehouse has it, but watch for a new giant American flag on the back of one of the ladder trucks. They'll be also having that up at the first Moscow High football game, I believe. So they're excited about that. They had seen one somewhere like, hey, our flag's getting really raggedy and we don't like that. And can we get a new one? And they're very excited to have it up. I haven't seen it yet. I'm also excited to see it. And then I just have to do another quick plug for Howling at the Hamilton, September 7th from 1 to 6. $15 per dog, helps the Humane Society of the Palouse, and they need all the help they can get. And it's also, it's better than Christmas. So can't wait to see y'all there.
My dog has it on her calendar,
Good.
circled in red.
I have played with her dog at least twice, if not 3 or 4 years at Howling, as well as many others. It's the best.
Nice event. Haley,
I was just gonna add, I also look forward to the staff picture. We get an email of all the dog hair they pull out of the filter, and the past few years they'll shape it into a dog, and it's really funny. As someone who doesn't,
I think I end up with enough that I could be my own dachshund.
yeah, I believe you. I believe you. Okay, so let's see. I attended the bi-monthly city, county, school district, university breakfast, and always appreciate the chance to connect left, right, up, down with our other agency peers, and ideally not have any surprises come up. Then that was followed by, it was 2 Wednesdays ago, I had an executive committee meeting for Smart Transit, and then which is what we do to meet ahead of time before the general board meeting, which is this Wednesday. At 9:30. And then the third week of the month is always pretty hectic. I've got a PBAC, the Palouse Basin Aquifer Committee, since we've got a full house tonight of enthusiastic, not yet asleep listeners, which we love. So PBAC, I'm on the communication subcommittee, and so we'll be meeting to continue the discussion around planning community engagement events for the PBAC plan we are funding, to talk about aquifer solutions that were funded through the Idaho IDEQ, Idaho Department of Environmental Quality and Water Resources, which is great. And then we've got the full PBAC meeting on Thursday, so we'll have some updates for you all after PBAC. And then Parks and Rec tabled at the farmers market this past Saturday, and we tried to rally the folks and interests who there's always going to be a need for referees for youth sports, adult sports as well, and then for coaching. And so there's a background check process, and my sense is the staff does their best to pair you with a team and sport that you're interested in. So put in the bat signal out for that. And then we meet again next week. And just thanks to everyone for this team for helping cover the Public Works meeting for me last week, so we could go spread my grandpa's ashes on a lower salmon. So that was great. And that's what I got at 8:07 on 8/18, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
cool. As for me, you don't have too much. Did have the meeting with the university, county, school district people last week, and most of that centered around they're here. The students are back. And I'm sure everybody has noticed that around town with commuting and traffic, which impinges on the other big topic that happened there, which was all the construction, which thankfully is starting to wind down. And we should have all of our roads back before too terribly much longer. Did go out and meet with representative from the Association of Idaho Cities, and that's centered around issues that are pertinent to areas north of McCall, which seems in a statewide governance sense is frequently neglected. So getting those issues out for the upcoming legislative season is important. So made a first good stab at that. That little meeting went on for almost 4 hours. It was surprising. Yeah. Anything from staff?
Nothing from staff
Can
this
I
evening.
add one thing really quick?
Yeah, you may.
Thanks. Sorry about that. Talking about the students being back, I wanted to remind folks that on Saturday, on the University of Idaho campus on 6th Street by the dorms, it's Palooza Fest, and it's a really good chance for town and community to get together. It's a gigantic, basically tabling event for people of the community, clubs and organizations to share what they do and get student interest up. And it's a chance for all of our new students at the university to go around and learn about what we have. We're also doing an event called Sync. It used to be Serve Your New Community. It's been changed to See Your New Community. So if you are at Farmers Market, you may see great gobs of students doing things like taking group photos and making movies as part of See Your New Community. So we can try and integrate some interest in the students coming to downtown meeting the students, and then separating again. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Great.
Do I hear a motion?
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion to
adjourn.
adjourn and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you all for coming.